Hey, everybody. Welcome to Latched Mama Podcast. It is Melissa coming to you from the Latched Mama headquarters again, which is awesome, in Midlothian, Virginia. We are in the midst of World Breastfeeding Month. So we're coming to you with a little bit more breastfeeding information today. Something I'm super proud of as a business owner and just a human in general is that at Latched Mama, we have a bunch of certified lactation counselors on staff ready to answer any of your lactation questions. So today, we have pulled 3 of them into this lovely podcast setting, which I know they're all so comfortable about. And we are going to talk a little bit about some of the more popular, a little bit more kind of fancy breastfeeding questions that we get. But we have April and we have Cory with us, and we also have Erin. Sorry. I have these like pregnant brain moments and everybody's got to forgive me. All of which I am sure you guys have seen if you all have interacted with us from a customer service perspective or on our online community. And they are all absolutely wonderful CLCs. And they wanted to come in today to talk a little bit about the questions they get asked the most. You're listening to the Latched Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, business owner and tired mom of 5. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, nursing, parenting, and all things motherhood. Thanks for being here, guys. This is fun. It's like a little party.
I know. I'm excited.
Do you guys want to go through and introduce yourselves relatively quickly and talk about kind of what you do at Latched Mama and, your family and stuff, maybe?
Yeah. Breastfeeding experience. Yeah, go April.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm April. I am the customer service manager and social media manager. And what else? What else do you want to know? I have 3 kids. They're a little older. So if I share some experiences, it's like old school breastfeeding, you guys. Like before social media, before freemies, before all kinds of things. So I have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old.
She's April's like our mama bear around here. She's wonderful. She's the one that reminds us of boundaries and family, and her oldest is going off to college this weekend. So it's a little sad.
If I randomly burst into tears, that's why you'll know.
At one point, I feel like everybody in your family except the younger 2 has been on payroll here at Latched Mama too.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's something to be proud of. Anyways, okay.
Oh, hello. I'm Cory. You guys, if you listen to the podcast, you've already heard me a couple of times. I love to be here. Love to hang out with Melissa. I work in social media at Latched Mama. I answer a lot of your CLC questions in the Facebook group, approving those posts, making sure you guys are nice to each other, and giving each other good advice in our social media Latched Mama community. I am a parent of 3, almost 4 children, like 3 3/4 children. Very, very close to having baby number 4, and have breastfed for 50 plus months total.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of months.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many. I'd have to count it up. I'm also like an informal milk donor and love all things CLC and breastfeeding. This was a really great opportunity to work here and learn so much more about lactation.
Aww. Yeah. I'm Erin. I work customer service. So if you've emailed us, I have probably chatted with you on email. I also have 3 children. They are a little bit older as well. My oldest is almost 15. My middle child is almost 12, and my youngest just turned 8. Aww. So they're older, but it was really cool to come work at Latched Mama a couple of years ago because I've always felt really passionately about motherhood and breastfeeding and taking care of moms in that vulnerable time. And this gave me the opportunity to kind of go back to that time in my life and revisit those memories and, encourage moms again. So it's been nice.
You guys are the best.
Oh, you're the
best. So April, who sees the majority of the stuff that comes in, has put together a few questions for us.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to start with what and this is literally statistically a lot of what we see. So we're not making this stuff up. Like, these are the questions that most of our community has, which hopefully means you guys have asked them to yourself or looked for resources to figure out, how to get answers before.
Yeah. So one of the first questions we wanted to just chat through is to make sure you guys knew what a certified lactation counselor does. They may be a little different than an IBCLC that you may see at your hospital, or I guess within your community as well. Mm-hmm. So one question I have here is just, what does a CLC do and what type of training do they have? And then where can a mom find one in their community?
Well, the training was pretty intensive. Melissa sent us all to training.
I said, figure out who's getting your kids off the bus this week. I need you guys to go learn about boobies.
Yeah, and I'm so glad we did. But it was very intensive. It was a full week of all-day school, followed by a very intensive exam.
Yes. Homework every night.
Every night. We had a practical part of the exam and a written part. It was a pretty intensive week. I think you come out of it with like 3 college credits or something. It was crazy, but it was so informative. I learned a lot, I breastfed my 3 kids. But I learned a lot about just like the, what do you call it? The biology of breastfeeding and the global movement for breastfeeding and like how to support moms globally and in your community. It was really cool.
Yeah, so you'll find a lot of lactation experts normally in your area. There are a lot of different kind of stages in terms of education. There are a lot of online doula programs that also offer some sort of lactation certification. That's normally like an online class that has a quick little test at the end of it. Not saying that those aren't good. A lot of the breastfeeding issues that pop up are normally pretty easily solved with the right education. So that's always a good resource. The next step would be something like a CLC. And then the next step above that would be an IBCLC or something like that. So the CLC kind of pathway is kind of one of those middle ground where you actually can practice. You can practice as a lactation counselor within your community. But we use it here because IBCLC certification is extremely difficult. You almost have to be a nurse first. And it's a really good in-between middle ground, I feel like, that, arms everybody with a lot of information. But
yeah, I like what you said, too, about how a lot of breastfeeding issues can be solved with just some education and knowledge. And that I've heard a lot of moms over the last, however many years since I've had kids, almost 15, that have said, oh, I couldn't breastfeed because of this, or I couldn't breastfeed because of this. And a lot of those issues that moms think they can't breastfeed because of X, Y, or Z can be so easily remedied, or they don't have to be an issue at all. So learning about how to help moms work around or through those issues was so awesome.
And it's such a bigger picture of kind of why we as a company feel so passionate about making sure that we're using that revenue stream to educate you all, because I know you guys do a lot of stuff with friends or family members or just outreach that has nothing to do with Latched Mama, but it's just using your education in the community, because so many women want to breastfeed and then they end up at home with very little support. They get overwhelmed. All of a sudden, their baby's losing weight. There may not be an IBCLC or lactation counselor at their pediatrician's office. And of course, they want to do what's best for their baby. And their one job at that point is to help their baby grow. It's not working. It takes so much confidence to then search for a resource and find a resource. So, part of our mission at Latched Mama is to make sure there's as much kind of ability to reach people who can help you in those situations, if that's something that you're passionate about doing.
Just last week, I went to my fitness instructor's house because I'm doing body pump with her. She's pregnant. So I'm like, hey, just so you know, when this baby comes, I'm a postpartum doula. I'm a lactation counselor. Give me a call. So she finally did, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the baby was born. And she was talking about how much her nipples hurt and they were bleeding, and that she had stopped breastfeeding and she was just pumping and giving formula because she just couldn't do it. And so I was like, okay, so we're chatting back and forth, and I could just tell that probably that latch was not correct.
Right.
Like just based on what she was
Painful,
saying,
yeah.
I was like, ugh, that latch is not right. So we talked through a couple of things. I sent her a couple of videos and she was like, oh yeah, I have not. It was the
Light bulb
latch. Like
moment. Yep.
I was
And she
not
was
doing
3
that
weeks
right.
in, 2 to 3 weeks in
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point. Oh,
So I was like,
makes my
okay.
nipples hurt just thinking.
I know.
about it.
And I was like, yeah, like who wouldn't stop? Like that's
absolutely.
painful if you're bleeding and scabbing and the baby's not happy and you're not happy, of course. So I said, let me just come to your house and let me just sit with you. I will tell you in advance, I may need to touch your breasts, but
Yeah.
like, hello,
this is something
hello,
that's
fitness
important to you.
instructor.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I may need to now touch your breasts, but like, I'll sit with you and we'll figure out what is going on. And, I mean, I was there probably an hour and we just kind of worked through a couple of different things. She got one really good latch to where she was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be like. And for me,
Yay.
that was so rewarding because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you've been going 3 weeks with something different than that, you know?
Ouch.
So now she knows. And then, you know, he was getting fussy and whatever. And so we just moved back to like, do what you all are comfortable with at this
Yeah.
point. But if this is a goal of yours, keep working in that direction. And now you know what that good latch is supposed to feel like.
Right.
And that was like key. And so I don't know what she's going to end up doing or what variation of breastfeeding she's going to end up having, but at least,
It's just
you know,
so hard.
armed with a little bit of
Yeah.
information.
It's so hard to imagine just because I haven't personally had it. I've had very fortunate experiences in terms of midwifery care, but the idea that we're sending women home, 48 hours after they have a baby, some women haven't even had their milk come in at that point. They're at home, they're engorged, they're trying to get this latch that looked one way at the hospital. So maybe they did see an IBCLC at the hospital. The latch looked great, but now all of a sudden, you know, they've gone from grapefruits to cantaloupes and the baby can't drain the milk. Like, I mean, the amount of issues that can arise once you get home that are somewhat easily solvable, but in that moment of no sleep, I mean, hopefully your birth went well. Hopefully you're not processing it. You have other kids around. You have to work through all of those issues with such little support. I don't know. I could go on for hours.
Yeah,
about it,
that's
but-
so true. I think a lot of people don't have that support. Like when I first started breastfeeding my oldest, I had no idea what I was doing. I was only 23 years old. I was so young. First time mom. Thankfully, my mom had breastfed, which was rare because I think a lot of moms in the 80s
Yep.
did not, because it was the women's lib movement. It was, you're going back to work. You don't need to breastfeed. Here's formula. You know, it was like that big movement, which had a lot of good components to it. But on the other side of it, a lot of moms now don't have that capability to
Yeah.
support their daughters. Even if they are trying to be supportive, they don't have that experience. I was fortunate to have it, but now a lot of moms don't. And they don't know where to look for that support. Which
No.
I'm glad that we are vocal about the fact that we offer that, because I think a lot of people just don't know where to go to get it.
Yeah.
No, I'm a young parent of a young parent of a young parent. So I had my first at like 19. I turned 20 10 days later, and
Yeah.
my mom did not breastfeed any of her 5. My Nana didn't breastfeed any of hers. No aunts or anybody in the family breastfed, and
Wow.
it was this determination. I had to prove my mother wrong. Had to do it.
Yeah.
And I was definitely that first time mom that was like tracking the feeds on my phone. Left breast for
Yeah.
5 minutes, right breast for 15 minutes for like the first 9 months. Every ounce he gained, you know, it's anxiety ridden if you do not have the right support and education.
Absolutely.
You're so capable of feeling
Yeah.
like you failed.
For
It's
sure.
painful.
So, anyways, long story short, with the first question, we have a team. It's much larger than this. Ready, willing, able, capable of helping you all as much as we can virtually. And we also are more than willing to do the research for you in terms of who in your area is also able to actually meet with you, look at your latch, things like that. It's just a little labor of love part that we do. We don't do it to try and sell more clothes. We do it literally because we truly believe in supporting the moms in that postpartum period. So,
yeah. And I would say a lot of pediatricians' offices also have CLCs on staff. And personally, if I were looking at pediatricians, that would be a huge win for me.
Yes, sure.
Especially as a first-time mom, like that might sway my choice for sure.
Or you can ask your hospital when you're leaving if they have a warm line, like a CLC on call that you can, or nurse line that you can call and ask those questions to, or reach out to us, because anywhere you touch Latched Mama, we will get you in touch with a CLC.
Yeah, and there's something else just really quick that I want to add to this. Not everybody is trained in lactation. So don't assume that if you call your labor and delivery line, or you call your pediatrician's office, or you call your OB's office, that there's going to be somebody there that is trained in evidence-based lactation information. I remember a friend of a friend was super engorged after her birth. She came home. She called the hospital again and said, "Oh my gosh, what is happening to my body? I don't understand. I'm so uncomfortable. I can't move. I have, milk up to my collarbone." Oh. And their advice was to put a really tight sports bra on. So, and this was that was a major hospital in the Richmond area. Someplace that should not have ever been the answer.
Poor baby.
So, we thankfully it got to me and we kind of recircled and, talked about engorgement, which you can learn a little bit about on last week's podcast. But yeah, so just don't assume, really truly ask whoever you're talking to about, kind of what their lactation, education is.
Some county health departments also have lactation consultants
Yes,
and a lot of WIC offices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my entire, so I didn't take the CLC training the 2 times that we've sent Latched Mama employees. I actually flew down to Florida and took it on my own prior to sending any employees to it when we were a little bit of a smaller company. And everybody in there was kind of brought in from different Florida WIC organizations, which I think is
great.
fantastic.
Such a great resource.
Fantastic. So it's there if you guys need it.
All right, next question. Can you give me some tips for preparing to go back to work?
Yeah.
So I was going to take that one, but then jump in.
Go for it.
I think, are you the only one did you go back to work breastfeeding or pumping?
I did not. No.
Did you?
I brought Lucy here.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
this is a little bit of a different situation. A little bit. I think, and I mean, I was at home with my first, and then by the second was born, Latched Mama had started, so I've just had mine on the breast
Yeah,
here.
so we're going to let April take
So
this.
April, go ahead.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was trying to think, and I think that I probably have pumped as much as I have nursed my babies.
Wow.
Like equal amount of time spent during the day. So yeah, I would just say, number one, don't get that pump out until a couple of weeks, say 2 to 3 weeks before you're due back to work. So let's just assume that you get a 12-week maternity leave. So
you're being really,
I know.
really
Let's
generous right now.
America.
Let's just
Don't get me started, or that's going to be the rest of the hour of this podcast.
I know.
I'm going to be over here quiet.
I know. I'll just go off of my experience. So
a whole other podcast.
thankfully I got that. So I had a 12-week maternity leave. So I would not get that pump out until about week 9 or 10. A lot of moms, and I think you talked about this on the previous podcast, get that pump out at like week 1. No, keep it in the closet. Let your supply get established with your baby first, and then there will be plenty of time to figure that pump out.
Anxiety though? What about that anxiety of the clock is ticking? I have to go back to work. I don't have any milk in the freezer. Oh my gosh, they're only eating what they need every day, and I'm not making any extra. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's making me anxious just talking about it.
Yeah. Social media makes it really hard to not focus on the baby. Like people say over and over, feed the baby, not the freezer. But it's so hard to see other people, look at my freezer stash of all this milk I'm going to use when I go to work. And you're like,
oh my gosh, I have to go back to work. Yeah.
What do I do?
Right. So don't pay attention to that. Just focus on that time. That's the only time you're going to get day in, day out with that baby, in the middle of the day. So focus on that so that you will be able to later, be able to talk to your caregiver about what your baby's cues are and what their day looks like and all of that. If all you're doing is focusing on pumping, then you're not kind of utilizing that time the best. So I would say week 9, 10, start using that pump and just maybe pump once a day. Or if your baby nursed from one side, after he's done, maybe pump the other side. And you won't get, so just to kind of, again, relax the brain a little bit, you won't get the amount of ounces from your pump that your baby will be able to transfer. So don't pay attention to that. Just pump what you pump. Be happy with it. Bag them in like 1-2 ounce little bags. And you'll see it start to accumulate. So what you pump, on week 9 or 10, just, be proud of that. And you'll see that start to accumulate. If you do that once a day, you will have plenty. If you don't have the opportunity to create any kind of extra supply, just think about this. So what you need, what that baby needs each day is really about 1 ounce per hour that you are apart from them. So if you're apart from them for 10 hours, then they need 10 ounces approximately. So, you really could actually power pump over the weekend and get that set aside. So again, try to relax, focus on the time that you have, and then just start building that supply just a couple weeks before you go back to work.
Can we hit quickly, just because not everybody listens to archives of the podcast?
Yeah.
Just really, really fast, what the biology of those first couple of weeks is, in the sense of why it's so important not to stick a pump on if your baby is feeding at the breast. Why that extra little bit of oxytocin? I'm gonna leave it to you guys to talk about, because everybody heard me talk about it last week. So
I will say it's so important. Like I said earlier about feeding the baby, not the freezer, because you are going to see people on social media in life tell you you need X amount of milk saved up for your baby. They're eating 6 ounce bottles. It's not accurate. It's breastfed babies do not need 6 ounce bottles. You're going to want to pace feed your baby. So, reach out to us and we'll get you a great video on that, or Google pace feeding the breastfed baby.
And that's spelled Paced. I was talking to someone and she was like, paste like glue?
Because they'll do that themselves in kindergarten.
It's so easy to build an oversupply when you've just had a baby. Your body is adjusting to all of these changes. You're nursing around the clock, and then you think, oh, I've got to start saving up milk. Let me pump 2. Your body's going to think that you're trying to feed 2 babies, 3 babies, and you're going to start making milk out of your ear holes. And then you're going to welcome all these really unpleasant side effects like clogged ducts and mastitis. And, those can be hard to come back from. They're painful. It's not easy for you and baby to nurse through them. And it can also take a negative hit on your supply to start an oversupply. So really giving yourself that, like April said, 8, 9, 10 weeks for your supply to regulate with just your baby and for your body to learn just how much milk you need, then starting to pump to build what you need while you're away from baby, because you're still only feeding that one baby.
Yeah.
And you're going to see normally a pretty drastic shift in milk production around 6 weeks. You're going to see your milk production regulate. You're going to probably feel less full at times. I feel like that's a question we get a lot.
Yes.
Like that 6 week mark hurts, or like I can even tell you how far along they are. Like they'll send a message and like all of a sudden my breasts don't feel full anymore. What's going on? The baby seems fine. And I'm like, well, how far, like how old's the baby? And like 99% of the time it's in that like 6 to 8 week range where your breasts just start to learn. They learn how much milk to make. You maybe don't feel you're let down as much. And that actually means that you're doing a great job and that you're feeding your baby, what your baby needs to be fed. So.
Right. Yeah. So a couple other points I was going to say, make sure that you know your rights. So first of all, the Affordable Care Act allows for nursing moms to take breaks and for them to have a private nursing space. So make sure
that's
that
not a bathroom.
Yeah, or a supply closet. Yes, so that's set aside for that. That's a clean space. And it doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, it can be a comfortable chair, an electrical outlet. I mean, a little mini fridge would be fabulous, but like it doesn't have to be much more than that.
But hey, if you want it to be more than that, ask for more than that.
Yes. We had a mom in our Facebook group that works in she works in I think she said something like men's labor, but really heavy duty machinery in a very
labor. Is that what she
she said it was like a very man dominated.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
factory
woman's labor
space.
now.
Yeah. And she pushed for breastfeeding rights at work, and not only did she get like an amazing lactation space, but you like set the tone for further women that are going to work at her job and in that space are going to be supported to nurse their babies. It's amazing.
I remember a few years ago, I always feel like doing a big project every time after I have a baby. And so I had Benjamin will be 4 in October, and shortly on the other side of it, I was like, we need a lactation space in Richmond. So we have a super old baseball stadium, I don't even know. Do you know how old it is? I mean, super old. And it's been talked about being torn down
They are doing
every year. I don't know. At some point they're going to tear it down. I don't know. We used to have, it was a really good minor league team here called the Richmond Braves. And then it kind of came back to life. But anyways, I showed up and I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was still kind of postpartumly crazy a little bit. Not that I don't mean that in a mean way, but had no fear at all. But I literally just found an email address and I sent them an email and I said, hey, I've had a couple people reach out that the stadium is really hot in the summer and they want some place to breastfeed. And I remember getting an email back and they were like, okay, sure, you want to come in and talk about it. And I walked into this boardroom and this meeting of all these dudes. And I came with data about who makes the decision to go to minor league baseball games, which is the family and normally the woman in the relationship and stuff. And anyways, what ended up happening is not only did we put an awesome lactation room in that I love, it also has a modern bathroom now, which is fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. There's education opportunities everywhere.
Totally.
So find them, and just because you think that your boss may not care, you don't really know until you ask.
Yeah. And if you're in Richmond and you go to a Flying Squirrels game, go into the team store. And there is a lactation lounge in there provided by Latched Mama.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
awesome.
Beautiful.
I remember I walked into my dentist's office and I randomly found this dentist. It was way outside of where we live, kind of. It's totally on the West End out in Goochland. But he found out what we did and he was like, hold on, before you leave. And I'm like, I just got my teeth cleaned. I want to leave. Don't love the dentist. Don't really know who you are. He's like, I need to show you our lactation space I put in. Aww, and I was like, this is the most heartwarming thing ever. And he's like, at this point, we've had 7 moms use it. And I'm so proud of every one of them. And I was like, you are such a cool dude. But I would have I don't know. You wouldn't look at him and think that he would be anybody that would be approachable to say, hey, this is important to me.
Yeah.
It's important for me to
That's
breastfeed.
fantastic.
So
Right.
we can talk about breastfeeding at work for hours.
Oh,
but I'm going to be quiet now. So so use your voice. If you need help, reach out to us. We will help you find that space. If nobody's listening to you, I'll get angry. So you're gonna have to talk to one of them about
Speaking
it.
about Mama Bear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
She's on it.
So just a few other quick little tips. I would say speak to your boss ahead of time. Let them know that you're planning to breastfeed. You can easily find statistics letting them know that working moms who pump and nurse have less sick days because their babies tend to be healthier if they have some reservations, though it's really not their decision or choice anyway. But just if you feel like you need a little info. But if you have the opportunity to start back to work midweek, I would do that so that you're only away from your baby for 2 or 3
That's a
days
great tip.
that first week. Or can you do half days for that first week or so back? Is there an opportunity for you to have a more flexible schedule or reduce your hours for a period of time? Could you not take on an additional project in that first, 2 to 3 months back? So just think through some of those things that will allow that transition to happen a little more smoothly. And it's okay to go, just speaking as a mother that I worked in corporate America. I had 3 little babies and nursed and pumped and traveled and all the stuff that needed to get done. It is okay to say no sometimes. It is okay to say, I don't think I'm right for that project right now, or I'm going to need to have a hard stop at 5 p.m. It's okay. People will figure it out, and you'll be seen as someone that can handle multiple things, does have boundaries, is able to stand up for herself, not someone that is just, do whatever you want to me. Like, my
point.
family will take the brunt of that.
repercussions,
And if that doesn't happen, then you're probably not working in the right place, because, you want your family to come first. I know that's really hard, because
I've seen
hard
I've seen
pill to
some
swallow.
moms that have reached out, and just a couple friends that they also work in the daycare space, but a lot of moms, even in our Facebook group, have said they've discussed with their boss when they're going to pump, how to work that around their schedule, and if they have some childcare leeway, they will have the baby brought to
That's
them.
what I was gonna say.
To nurse on their lunch break.
Don't be afraid
Do you
to
work
ask for
close
that.
to home? Can your mom or your childcare provider run the baby up to work? Do a little nursing on your lunch break. Then you don't have to pump, and you can skip that session, and you get a couple extra minutes with your baby. You're getting that bonding time. You're still producing the milk that you need to produce, and you're stressing a little bit less about how much you need to save up for the next day.
and you get that little oxytocin rush too.
Yes.
Oh my
which
gosh.
To get you through the day.
Yeah.
Yep.
See your baby in the middle of the day.
Isn't that great?
That is great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, visit us
Or-
at episode 19 if you want to
or-
hear about that. A little bit of work-life balance ideas too.
Yeah, or you can watch the CBS morning show on August 31st.
Oh, we have a
At the
date.
7:30 hour.
This just in.
I'm going to get up early. I don't do that.
So
I'm
exciting.
pretty sure that you can watch it on replay.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got to talk about my little passion, which is the fact that women need to be seen as moms if they would like to, and employees at the same time, and valued in that way. So yes,
And
CBS national morning show.
And you also made friends with the anchor.
Yes.
And she's getting ready to have a baby, and now Melissa's kind of like her CLC friend.
Well,
Love it.
Ish.
I mean, who knows? I answered a lot of
But that's
questions she
just so
had. I think
great.
she was just a journalist. She just asked a lot of
I
questions.
love what you just said too, that you can be seen as a mom and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
successful human, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. You
Yeah.
can be both.
Absolutely.
You
I mean,
can't be
I
both.
assume, who knows if they'll use the quote or whatever, but I did say when we were talking in the interview, one of the few things I remember saying, because in those things, they interview you for so long and then they cut it to like a minute. So who knows what we're actually going to see. But I really truly feel like, workplaces across America, we've diluted motherhood to pumping breaks and like pictures on desks.
Right.
And it needs to be more than that. Especially hopefully on the other side of COVID, we see the actual capabilities that women have to, run households and school children and work and do projects and breastfeed their children, and really have opened that conversation. Hopefully,
Yeah.
that we
We
can
run
be
the
more.
world.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
We run the world.
Love it. Okay, next question. How can I get my experienced nurser, usually this is around 6, 7, 8 months old
Right.
nurser, to focus on nursing rather than getting distracted?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I would say when they're really hungry, they're going to
They'll
eat.
eat. Yeah.
But that's also the age that they're probably teething, maybe getting some separation anxiety, just need those cuddles, exploring their world, trying new things, falling, getting hurt, not reaching toys. And they start to have emotion too,
Yeah.
And so they want a snugs, you know?
And they love, that's when they're starting to figure out like what's going on in this world.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
they pop off the breast
They're
and
so
then they
nosy.
go back on and like, what's going on over here?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, it's almost like being on the breast gives them the confidence to explore a little bit more. You know, it's like they're on the breast and they're happy and they're content and they feel loved and nourished. And then all of a sudden they pull off and they're like, ooh, what's happening out here? Okay, now that's kind of scary. I don't know what's
Yep.
happening over there, but I'm going to go back to my little safety place.
Yeah. So it's totally normal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I nursed Lucy, my third child, while working here at Latched Mama from like 8 weeks to like 9 months right before the pandemic hit, and she really went through that like FOMO, couldn't keep her head down on the breast. So we did a lot of like walking away from the desk. Let's go sit on the couch. Let's sit down and just focus on feeding. Like nobody talk to her while she's eating or I'm gonna get bit.
Yeah.
Let's go sit in another room and turn the lights out. Even if she doesn't need a nap, even if baby doesn't need to calm down and get ready for sleep, it gives you guys that time to really focus on, you know, feeling that oxytocin, feeling that bond and connecting and letting that milk just flow. So you get a sufficient feed, you get less distractions, and, you know, nobody gets bit.
Yeah, I definitely found around that time that I had to go to another room where everybody wasn't hanging out. It was just us. Also, something as simple as just like putting your finger in their free hand and just letting them. I remember they would just like shake my finger back and forth while they're, and that would be enough to occupy them that they wouldn't worry so much about what was going on around them. Just little distractions like that. Maybe a nice little nursing necklace.
Yeah.
Thinking that, yeah.
Latched Mama makes those.
It's also that age though too that you've probably learned enough about your baby at that point too, that if your baby seems content and happy and they're pulling off and they're laughing and you're just over it, like you're like, I have got stuff to do. I know you're not really hungry, because if you were hungry, you'd be eating. Like, as Lindy and I like to say on the podcast, like, it's okay. It's okay to say no. It's okay to put your baby down with a toy and say, hey, you know what? You're really not into this. You know, you're giggling on the breast. Like, it's probably not, you know,
Urgent
right now that we
Right.
do this.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a good point.
especially if you're in a situation where, you know, you are surrounded by people and it's like nipple show, nipple show, nipple show, nipple show. And you're like, okay, let's regroup later.
Yep.
Right. That also made me think, like you said, they're teething a lot of times during that time. And so they may be slightly uncomfortable. So you're a pro at this point. So that would be a great time to like try different positions. They're so much stronger. They can maybe even sit up. Like you can try some different positions that are a little bit more comfortable for them as well, if they're like experiencing some drainage or something like that during that time too.
Yeah, I will say that my all three of my kids, as soon as they learned how to sit up and nurse, they were so much more efficient and happy and like got their feeds done so much quicker than me trying to lay them down and cradle them or football hold them or lay down with them. Like they're so excited and they want to be moving and they want to be rolling around and touching everything and pulling your hair and sticking their toes in your mouth. So just like letting them sit up and look around while they're feeding, it was a game changer for us all 3 times.
Yeah, I think that's also around the time when I learned how to stand up and nurse. It was when my oldest would not focus. So I stood up and kind of rocked him back and forth. And then eventually he was like, oh, we're doing this. We're comfortable. We're rocking. Okay. And then he would nurse. So there was a period of time where I was pacing in my tiny little apartment with my baby because
cute.
he wouldn't nurse otherwise.
Right? You'll find your groove.
Yeah. Okay, I was told I couldn't breastfeed because I'm on a certain medicine. You guys, we hear this a lot.
Do you remember that email? Can you tell a little bit?
The one that
about
made
the
me
story?
so mad.
Well, the one that pretty much made us all cry, like the one that she went back and she actually advocated for herself, and she was right the whole time, or something, or they switched meds or something.
Yeah,
I think
so
it's
we
really
got
important to preface this again with the fact that not all doctors know a lot about lactation.
Or or even know that lactation is important to you. So
Yep.
if you say, hey, I'm breastfeeding, and they say, hey, this is medicine and it's not compatible with breastfeeding, and the conversation ends there, that's a whole lot different than saying, hey, my breastfeeding relationship's really important to me, and I think no matter what's going on in my life, it's actually going to help me heal. You know, like you take that whole biological system and all of a sudden you stop breastfeeding, and no matter what's going on with your body, whether it be, you know, emotional or, you know, some sort of infection or something like that, it's all going to impact your body.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you just need to let them know that it's important to you.
Yeah.
There are some times where there is absolutely no way around it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But many times there is.
Yeah. So we got an email from this customer, and it was a simple email. She wasn't reaching out for lactation support. She just wanted to cancel her order, and she had happened to mention that she had a foot break or something. I can't remember what body part, but and she needed to have surgery. And so this medicine that she needed to go on, or maybe that she was on at that time, her physician had told her that she could not breastfeed. And I was like, oh, this makes me mad. Like, this obviously, people have breaks and they have surgeries all the time. So what was the disconnect there? So I, you know, of course was like, I'm happy to cancel your order, but just so you know, here's a resource. So Latched Med, LACTMED, is a resource that you guys can all go out to and look at, and you can look at your medicine, and it's sciencey. You have to read through, but it's like studies of what breastfeeding moms can and cannot do with different medicines. But that will tell you if it's safe or not. And then, so I gave her that resource, and I said, up to you based on what your goals are, but it sounds like you're pretty upset about this. And so I would just suggest, is there a different medicine that you could be on? And just going back and talking with your doctor about that. So I'm like we have little notes that we can add in there. And I was like, this makes me so mad. Like, I was so mad, not at her, but just at that. Oh, there's one answer and here's what it is.
Yeah.
No wiggle room.
Yeah.
But I mean, you also have to look at the fact that, like, what do we have, like 15-minute doctor's appointments in the United States? I mean, it's all a mess. And that's what so much of this kind of goes back to. But even just taking those couple minutes, you have a right. Find your voice, just like the workplace situation. You have a voice to say, hey, can my baby come to me to breastfeed? Hey, you know what? This breastfeeding relationship's important to me. Is there another medicine? Or is there another way
I
around
had an
this?
instance when my daughter was breastfeeding, and I had hurt my shoulder, and the doctor, it was over the phone. I had called him, and I said, it's still really bothering me. Is there anything you can give me just so that I can sleep at night? Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, I'll give you X medicine. I don't remember what it was. And I said, okay, can I breastfeed on that medicine? And he said, well, I don't recommend it. And I said, okay, well, I'm breastfeeding. Is there another medicine that I can use instead? And he, sure enough, took about 2 seconds. He got another one.
There's always going to be something, right? And so
science is amazing.
Yeah, right? So this customer did email back, and she was...
Which, like, we never expect emails back in that situation.
Yeah,
like, we just say, hey, here's a resource. She would never know we were mad. Like, it's not something that, like, is our business to be mad about, but in the whole grand scheme of things, you know, it's just...
Right.
not looked at.
And wanting to support moms, it upset us.
So it was so cool that she emailed back, because she was like, I just want to let you know, I went back, I talked to my doctor. I now have a whole care team around making sure that I get to continue breastfeeding through this surgery and this process. I mean, it was just so cool.
Yeah, like he reached out to like an OB and a pediatrician or something at the same time
so she
to
had
try
like a
and
whole
figure
care
out
team to make
how
sure
to
that
make
she
sure
was good.
that tandem relationship between her and her baby continued. Awesome. It's so interesting. Like, even my dad, who... he's an optometrist. I remember I had an eye infection at some point when I was breastfeeding. I was down in Florida. It was like pink eye or something. Or no, I was pregnant. I don't know. One of the two. And I remember he wrote me this prescription. And he was like, yeah, but you can't take it, you know, while you're breastfeeding or while you're pregnant or something. And I was like, well, why'd you write it to me? He's like, because this is what I'm supposed to write. And I mean, what, is there another option? And I'm like... Holy hell, Dad. Like, what are you doing? Like, these are your grandbabies. Like, can we talk about this some more? But it's just so interesting. You sometimes have to educate, and sometimes you have to advocate for yourself, even when it's apparently your own father.
Yeah, just ask the question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, last one, maybe. We'll see. How do I know when it's time to wean, and how do I do it?
Is that like the baby's ready or the mommy's ready or they're both ready?
I think
or
we
they
get
want-
both of those. And I will say
All
for
the time.
some reason, there seems to be this 1 year. Well, I know that's like the recommended requirement is that you breastfeed for 1 year. But sometimes moms, it is like they're ready to
Like a
drop
switch,
it.
yep.
At 1 year. So
And that's
maybe,
fine.
Yeah, and that's fine too. It's just interesting. Sometimes we get that almost like I'm approaching this 1 year mark.
What do I do? Yeah.
How do I wean?
Yeah.
So that makes me seem like that's more mama led rather than
I
baby
breastfed
led.
my kids for 1 year based on like, I was just like, oh, that's what they recommend. I'm going to shoot for a year. And then I got there and I was over it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're over it, if all the joy and bonding has been sucked out of it for you, if you just want your body back, then it's time to wean. If your baby's over it, that's what actually happened with my two boys, both kind of just self-weaned. They just were over it. With my last one, I wasn't really ready.
Well, yeah, last
But
baby.
he is my baby, and he was just done. I think my daughter would have. I think she would still be breastfeeding if she could. She's 12. I think she would still breastfeed if she could. But I was over it, so I cut her off.
So how did you, if you decide, then how did you go about doing that?
Yeah. So I just with Lily, she was. She would crawl back up inside me if she could. But I
She's
needed.
such a sweetheart.
Oh
though.
yeah.
Oh my
She's an
goodness.
angel. She I just kind of started eliminating like 1 feed at a time. You just kind of do it one at a time. You don't just cut it off all at once. Just the one that maybe the baby seems less interested in, or maybe one that falls around mealtime, so you can kind of replace that with food, because around that time they start really eating. They can really eat people food around the year mark. So I would, drop the lunchtime breastfeeding and just give her food. And then in the morning, I would just give her breakfast instead of feeding. I think the last one to go was always the nighttime.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought that's
Yeah.
what you were going to
Super
say.
popular.
Yep.
That was always the last one to go. And then, but by that time, you've eliminated all the other ones and they're just kind of ready.
Yeah. We get a lot of questions, I feel like, about weaning and pregnancy, which is kind of a little bit of a controversial topic, I'm sure, not completely based in science and stuff. But a lot of people feel like they need to wean to get their cycle back, to get pregnant again. I feel like that's a question in the group all of the time.
Or their doctor told them, oh, you're pregnant now. You have to stop breastfeeding.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, from what I've understood in terms of science, it's really done on a case-by-case basis. If you don't have any sort of reason, like an irritable uterus or preterm labor, there's really no reason why you can't breastfeed through pregnancy. I know personally, it's probably because I'm older. My progesterone, if you look at the way that breastfeeding works and the science behind it, my progesterone stays relatively low while I'm still breastfeeding, which is the way that the whole science behind the milk production works. But for the last 2 to 3 pregnancies, I've really had to completely wean to be able to get that progesterone up high enough to support a pregnancy, which I don't know, has some science behind it. Some people would say no. But if you look at the way, Kelly Mom has an amazing article about
Kelly Mom.
They have a whole chart about kind of what happens with ovulation as you start to get back to it after childbirth and lactation. It's really, really interesting. But yeah, I don't think I've ever really had to wean a kid other than pregnancy wean. And then that's a whole nother thing, because you're trying to protect something inside of you and get them to feed less. Although I have promised sweet little Catherine, who turns 2 right when this baby's born, that she can have milk again when the baby comes. which
Oh,
Good luck.
We'll see if she
Good luck.
remembers. But
I bet she will.
yeah, thanks. I'll keep you guys posted on that.
She's gonna be hitting you up.
She just tries now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, stay away from my
No.
nipples,
Yeah.
stay
Oh,
away
gosh.
from them. I'm like, just a few more weeks, honey,
No.
like 6 more weeks, and then she's like, okay, mama, and I'm like, oh no, please forget about it. Just hug your baby brother when he comes, all right?
I
sweet
I feel
girl.
like I operated on both of those levels, where like all of my kids are 2 years apart. Like, I'm not even sure how I did that, but it just happened that way. And I also was like Erin, I was mentally done breastfeeding around that same time. So all of my kids have weaned between the like 18 and 22 months mark. And I like to say that they self-weaned because we kind of worked on it together. Like, if you want to wean drastically and you want it done within, a couple weeks, you're totally capable of doing that. You can cut out a feed every couple days and you guys can be done in 2 or 3 weeks. If that's how you want to operate, absolutely, you can safely do that. I kind of went with the don't offer, don't refuse method, where my kids, who were all completely boob obsessed, I'd offer a toy instead when they asked to nurse. I'd offer a snack. We'd watch a TV show. We'd sit and cuddle. And if they really, really wanted to breastfeed, then absolutely I'd give it to them. But if there was a way I could distract them and I wouldn't offer it to them freely, it took maybe 2 months with each of them, and they all caught the hang of it pretty quickly, and we were down to 1 feed. Like at night, I think everybody's last feed to go is that either breastfeed when you get up in the morning for snuggles and good morning hugs, or that like going to sleep and getting comfortable in bed and really feeling confident to go to sleep by themselves type feed.
Were you getting ready to have a baby each time though?
I was not super pregnant. I was like maybe 8 to 14 weeks with all of my kids. Okay. And I will say I operated on the same issue as you did with low progesterone, and had a couple losses because of it, but went ahead to supplement it, which you can ask your doctor about. You can talk to your provider about, low progesterone, what you can do to support that, and how to continue breastfeeding if you want to. Personally, I was over it.
Yeah. And your milk starts to dry up. Your nipples get sensitive.
So sensitive.
It's a little bit easier to wean when it's completely not comfortable and they're not getting a whole lot anyway. So
one thing to just be careful of is that we see a lot of moms who get pregnant almost instantly after having their first baby, which more power to you. I don't think I could, but you're amazing. Just be aware that a very large majority, if not almost all moms, lose some or most of their milk production at some point in pregnancy. So if you have a younger baby, if you have a 6-month-old, if you have a 7-month-old, you're going to need to find something to tide them over. You're going to have to find donor milk. You're going to have to use formula to supplement. You're going to have to make sure that they're eating, some solid meals. Work with your pediatrician or your CLC, your IBCLC, a dietitian, something to make sure that other baby, whether you're still nursing or not, is getting what they need.
Absolutely.
All right. It's the last question I had.
Wow.
Oh, thanks, April.
Thanks,
Those
April.
are good questions.
Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Good discussions.
Anything else anybody wants to add? Reach out, guys. We have chat
Please.
that's open most of the time. Chat and email are going to be your best bet.
Yes.
But we have questions come in all sorts of places. Facebook Messenger, Instagram. Is there a way you all prefer them?
Email is
out?
best just because we can see like all of our past interactions.
Yeah, we can forward it to other team members too when this kind of group gets a little overwhelmed with requests. But if it's late at night and Facebook Messenger or something,
we'll respond to any of them. Absolutely.
Is something that you guys find your way to, we're definitely here for you.
Yeah, and I don't know, you may have noticed, but we have people on customer service and on Facebook
all the time.
All
day.
Yeah.
Weekends, weekdays, late at night, early in the morning. I usually start around 6:30 in the morning.
Yeah. All the time.
Lots of mamas like to get support from our Latched Mama Love Facebook group, which is a fantastic way to ask each other, how lactation's going for others, how this worked out for you. This is what's happening with me. Is that normal? But anecdotal evidence, people's other experiences, those are great. And those are really wonderful ways to get education and support. But if you still feel like you have a question that's not been answered, or you still feel like, you need a little bit more support, you can always reach us. Instagram messages, yes, you can get us. We don't have a whole lot of CLCs on that end, but always reach out.
We will find you help.
Yeah, we
support.
will always make sure that you get the support.
So happy World Breastfeeding Month.
Yay.
Thanks for listening.
This was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. Let us know if you guys need anything.
Some of my favorite people.
Aww. Bye, guys.
Bye.